and welcome back to another episode of the greatest show in the galaxy, the show where I, the curator, discuss my personal favorite show of all time, personal favorite franchise of all time, Doctor Who. Today we have another exciting day of talking about the music of Doctor Who, and now we're actually on to easily and unequivocally the most sound-based medium of Doctor Who, which is Big Finish, or rather, yeah, I was gonna say the audio side of things, but then again, there are other audio stuff that are Doctor Who related that don't necessarily have to come from Big Finish. But yeah, and true to form for a show about time travel, I did it in the wrong order, such as it is. Now, obviously, before we get down to the neat and gritty of the business of talking about that, I have to talk about the birthdays for the week. And we are covering this from July 12th all the way to July 18th. Something that I forgot to mention last week was that it was also my birthday on July 9th. So, yeah. Somehow I keep remembering to put all these wonderful, lovely lists of people involved with Doctor Who on my show, and somehow I forget myself. As it happens. In any case, let me just quickly transition into my other page. This is easily the most complicated and convoluted show I've ever done on this, or rather episode I've ever done on this show, because I literally, I'm not even joking, I literally have three completely separate internet browsers with multiple windows open for stuff for the show. So let's see how well I do or how badly I'm going to screw things up. Obviously, starting us off on July 12th, we have, let me just put the picture up and then look at his name because, like I said, multiple windows, trying to balance several different things on one monitor here. We have this guy, Tom Price. Sorry, I apologize again. I need to keep bouncing back and forth between three different windows. Tom Price played the character of Andy Davidson, or rather, as I like to call him, Andy, because that's in a Welsh accent. Yeah, Andy Davidson, a very regular character on the first three seasons of Torchwood. And spoiler alert, heads up, there are a lot of Torchwood-related people on today's birthday list. So he is 42 right now. Had his birthday on July 12th. Still in the same week, on July 13th, we have Mr. Joseph Lidster. He primarily is a writer of many Big Finish episodes, particularly in the main Doctor Who range, although he also wrote a lot of Unit and Torchwood related stories for Big Finish. On July 14th, we have Jane Espenson. I really apologize if I'm mispronouncing the name. She was a co-producer and writer of several episodes of the final season of Torchwood on television, also known as Miracle Day. Then, also still keeping with the theme of Torchwood, we have Indira Varma. She played the character of Susie Costello on Torchwood as well. And finally breaking away from this Torchwood streak we've been on for the past, 4 people, we have Miles Richardson. He played the character of Irvin Braxiatel in various Big Finish episodes, but primarily during the Big Finish Gallifrey series, starring Louise Jameson and Lalla Ward. Next, we have Robert Banks Stewart. He was a writer of various different Fourth Doctor episodes back in the day. However, he also got to actually sort of be a Doctor, or rather one of the faces of previous incarnations of the Doctor shown in The Brain of Morbius, and was officially, technically speaking, made canon to be the Doctor in the much controversial the timeless child storyline. So take that for what it is. Still, Robert Banks Stewart's contribution to the show cannot be understated, no matter your opinions on that episode. Next, we have David Sibley. Sibley. I really hope again I'm pronouncing the name. I apologize if I don't. He has a lot of credits to his name, mostly during on Big Finish. He's done a lot of Big Finish related episodes. However, the main reason he's on this list today is because he also primarily voiced the Eminence on various different Big Finish episodes, especially the Dark Eyes series of Big Finish, which is considered one of the best Doctor Who related series on Big Finish. Next, we have Gary Downey. I really hope again I'm pronouncing the name correctly. He was a production manager for a lot of Doctor Who episodes in the mid to late 80s. And finally, rounding up our list on July 18th. I apologize if I've forgotten to list some of the dates for some of these people. But on July 18th, we have Paul Cornell. Somehow we made it back, all the way back to a Big Finish again. He wrote a lot of stories for Big Finish. He also wrote a lot of Doctor Who novels, but also on television, he wrote two of the most iconic Russell T Davies era episodes, namely Father's Day and Human Nature and the Family of Blood. So for this wonderful list of people that I just listed today, thank you all. We quite literally could not do this without you. Hopefully I can make this episode a tad bit easier by closing one of those windows that I'm not going to use anymore for today's show, and actually get around to the business of talking about the music of Doctor Who. Obviously, in the past two episodes, almost said three, in the past two episodes I talked primarily about the main theme of the show, the composition written by, and yes, I still have those pictures right here, give me a second, written originally by Ron Grainer and then performed by Delia Derbyshire in the BBC Radiophonic Workshop. Obviously, as I mentioned in the previous episode, the Radiophonic Workshop closed down and finally shattered in 1998, 2 years after the Paul McGann movie, and several years before the actual full revival of the show with the Ninth Doctor played by Christopher Eccleston. Now, this does not in any way mean that the original theme is dead. Obviously, clearly we're still listening to that theme still to this day with the Jodie Whittaker era of the Doctor. The theme itself was received a sort of update with a brand new composer for the 1986 Paul McGann movie that I just mentioned a second ago by a composer by the name of John Debney. Here's a picture of him right now. This particular theme in and of itself is wildly different from any of the other Doctor Who related themes, which is because it literally begins with the middle eight. Officially, the theme itself sort of starts with a sort of humming type musical background, followed up by narration by Paul McGann himself, technically speaking, before he actually regenerates, before we actually get to see him on screen. But the narration actually follows a story that the Doctor is letting the audience know is sort of a hindsight that his long arch enemy, the Master, was finally caught and trialed on the planet Skaro, executed by the Daleks, and was originally set to have his remains be brought back to Gallifrey by the Doctor himself. We see the actual, we see a part of the trial, then the extermination by the Daleks, which is then immediately followed by a sort of zooming in of the Master's eyes into the camera, and then it actually brings us to the actual logo and title of the movie, with the middle eight starting us off with the triumphant sort of had the word in my head a second ago, but now it's gone. But the sort of trumpet fanfare, that's the word I was looking for. A trumpet fanfare of the middle eight section of the theme itself, which then proceeds to show us the actual logo and title of the show, sort of zooming into the camera, then passing by the camera, still floating in space. We actually get to see the logo itself inverted before flying into a modern-looking space-time vortex, which is primarily the inspiration for the space-time vortex that we've seen in the Russell T Davies era of the show, in the modern era of the show, with various different names of the main actors, leading actors, appearing inside the vortex itself, until eventually leading us into the TARDIS itself, zooming into the TARDIS while it's still spinning in the vortex, and then letting it continue to sail away inside the vortex before finally materializing us inside the TARDIS itself, with the Seventh Doctor, played by Sylvester McCoy, holding the remains of the Master, which then immediately follows into the beginning of the actual story of the movie. So that is it for the main theme for the movie. I just felt like I really needed to introduce that part of the theme in this episode, primarily for the reasons that I didn't want to leave anything out. I wanted to cover every single version of the main intro theme for the show / the movie in these 3 episodes. There are still several more versions of the intro theme that we have to talk about, but this leads me to my next topic of discussion, Big Finish. Big Finish has also done several different versions of the Doctor Who theme, as well as several original exclusive to the Big Finish versions of the Doctor's main intro theme. Now, I gotta be honest with you. During my research for this episode specifically, I found it excruciatingly difficult to find proper details, especially on the Doctor Who Wikipedia page, regarding the composition of different musics and themes. So what I decided to do eventually is just highlight several different Big Finish related projects and just recommend the music from those different projects. And I also have brought several of the main Big Finish composers, and I will be talking about them as soon as necessary, as soon as I'll have reason to bring them up in this show. Let me just quickly make sure that I have all the images that I need. There we go. I have it right here. Now, as per Big Finish itself, something that's actually very important to note is that all the music that can be heard in the background of most episodes is completely original music composed by the list of composers that I'm about to bring up today on this very same show. And at least for the first few monthly range of episodes for the classical Doctors, ranging from the 5th all the way to the 8th, Big Finish used to release the actual soundtrack for some of these episodes as official releases that can be purchased either through CDs or digital downloads. As a matter of fact, I'm pretty sure that at the moment they're no longer doing digital downloads, they're only doing CDs, or maybe it's the other way around. I can't be quite 100% sure about that, but it's still worthwhile checking out. Now, the first, as per usual, I have this a little bit backwards, so let's just start at the beginning, which is a pretty interesting place to start, very recommended place to start. The first volume of the music from Doctor Who on Big Finish is this cover that you see right here. Obviously, I picked up this picture from the actual Big Fish, or rather the wiki page, which is why it's really low quality because it's a very small picture stretched onto the much larger screen. But this first volume of the Music from the New Audio Adventures, Volume 1, features, is primarily composed by composer Alistair Locke. Hold on, let me just quickly make sure that I have a picture of this guy. Nope, apparently that is the only person that I don't have pictures for. I apologize, but let's just try to pick this up as we go along. And once again, working with several different browsers here. So Alistair Locke composed primarily composed the music for the episodes Phantasmagoria, The Fearmonger, The Marian Conspiracy, and The Spectre of Lenyon Moore, featuring the 5th, 6th, and 7th Doctors, respectively. The second volume of music from the Doctor Who monthly range of monthly adventures, which is the cover right here, very different from the previous one, as you can clearly see, also composed by Alistair Locke, and it features music from the episode Last of the Titans, The Shadow of the Scourge, and The Fires of Vulcan, which ironically is primarily features episodes from the 7th Doctor episodes, rather with 2 episodes from the 7th Doctor and one that is a sort of a joint venture between the 7th and 8th Doctors. Finally running up our list of music from Doctor Who, which is a much different cover for the audio release. You can see right here, very, very different from the previous 2, and it was composed by Russell Stone. Once again, I'm not 100% sure I have the image for this guy, which is interesting because on the official wiki page, I don't really see a image for this guy, so I apologize for Mr. Stone. But it primarily features music from the episodes Red Dawn, Winter for the Adept, and The Holy Terror. So 2 5th Doctor episodes and 1 6th Doctor episode. Next, we move on to some music from the 8th Doctor adventures. Once again, I pulled these pictures from the official wiki, so might be a little too overstretched. But the first volume of music for the 8th Doctor, which is composed by Alistair Locke, Nicholas Briggs, Russell Stone, and William Allen, features music from Storm Warning, Sword of Orion, The Stones of Venice, and Minute in Hell. All 4 episodes feature the 8th Doctor traveling with his new signature Big Finish companion, Charlotte Pollard. The next official music release from Big Finish for the Doctor Who audio adventures is this one, which is specifically focused around the 5th Doctor and features music once again composed by Alistair Locke, David Darlington, and Russell Stone, and features music from the episodes Lou Garou, The Eye of the Scorpion, and Primeval, episodes in which the Doctor is traveling with 4 completely separate companions. Lou Garou, he's traveling alongside Vizsla Torlo, played by Mark Strickson. In The Eye of the Scorpion, he's initially traveling with Perry Brown, played by Nicola Bryant, and then eventually picks up the new companion, Erime Mushim Teperem, played by I put all my effort into remembering the name of the character, that I'm suddenly blanking on the name of the actress, and that is not it. That is not Caroline Morris. Yeah, I apologize. Like I said, put so much effort into pronouncing the name that I forgot the name of the actress. I apologize, but that is it for The Eye of the Scorpion. And Primeval is primarily the 5th Doctor traveling alone with Nyssa. So 3.5, because this is actually Erimem's debut episode before she became an official companion. So 3.5 companions for the 5th Doctor in this audio release. For the Sixth Doctor, the music soundtrack release features music from the episodes Blood Tide and The One Doctor. I apologize for that. I just got a message apparently. I forgot to put my phone on silent. Let me just do that right now. There we go. So Blood Tide and The One Doctor, which both episodes can actually be seen on the cover of this the cover of this release. Blood Tide on the right and The One Doctor on the left. Blood Tide features the Sixth Doctor traveling with Evelyn Smythe, played by Maggie Stables, and The One Doctor features the Eighth Doctor traveling with Melanie Bush, played once again by Bonnie Langford from the show. And also there's a contribution by Jim Mortimer and Jane. I apologize if I mispronounced the name. Jane Elphinstone. Again, apologies if I mispronounced the name. But they contributed various different music tracks for Project Twilight, which again features the Sixth Doctor with Meg Stables playing Evelyn Smythe, but also it features the debut of the character Nimrod and the introduction of the Forge, which is the much larger structure in the sort of form of governmental body in the Doctor Who universe, which is definitely worthy of its own episode one day soon, but sadly not today. The next music release for the music from Doctor Who on Big Finish is this one. Which features music from the Excellus audio adventures, namely Excellus Dawns, Excellus Rising, and Excellus Decays, and The Plague Herds of Excellus, which features the 5th, 6th, and 7th Doctors, respectfully, alongside Katie Manning playing the character of Iris Wildtime, and the music was primarily composed by David Darlington. These names are really giving me a headache. I apologize. But finally, and thankfully for you all, the final music release for music from Doctor Who audio is this one, featuring music for the 7th Doctor, particularly from the episodes Dust Breeding, The Rapture, and Bang Bang-a-Boom. In Dust Breeding and The Rapture, the Doctor is primarily traveling with the character Ace, played by Sophie Aldred, and in Bang Bang-a-Boom, he's primarily traveling with the character of Mel Bush, once again played by Bonnie Langford. Sorry, I apologize. Too much bouncing back and forth between names. And the music for this particular release is primarily composed by Andy Hardwick, Jim Mortimer, and Russell Stone. Two things that I feel like are really important to note here for this particular release is primarily for The Rapture and Bang Bang-a-Boom. Technically that's one thing, but it's 2 episodes, so I decided to say 2 particular things. Is those 2 episodes in particular are very, very heavily revolving around music. Minor spoiler for both of these episodes. The Rapture primarily takes place in a nightclub type setting with, and again, trying to say that without spoiling, 2 main characters almost weaponizing music in a way. So you can see why music is such a very important and vital part of this episode. And also for the episode Bang Bang-a-Boom, which is one of my absolute favorite Doctor Who stories of all time. Probably not for the reasons that most people love Doctor Who stories, but it's primarily centered around a space Eurovision type event. A Galactivision, hold on, it might actually feature the exact name itself right here. Yeah, Galactic Vision. So it actually features several different original songs performed by the characters during the show itself. And something that's actually pretty interesting to note, particularly in this story and in the aforementioned The One Doctor, seeing right here on the left side of Colin Baker, is in the One Doctor episode, is primarily established that the national anthem for planet Earth and humanity is the song I Will Survive, which is then revisited in the episode Bang Bang a Boom with the Seventh Doctor, when during the actual Galactic Vision section of the story, people stand up and actually start singing the song I Will Survive as a sort of national anthem for planet Earth, which is both incredible and hilarious, in my opinion. And I decided to stop the show and bring attention to that because I like it so much. Now we move on to the second half of what I had planned for this show today. I didn't, like I said, I had a lot of trouble finding the actual proper facts about how music was composed for these Doctor Who stories on Big Finish. So what I decided to do is, like I said, I brought up this wonderful list of official musical releases for various different Doctor Who episodes, which I highly recommend getting as a separate thing to listen to on your own, because these are really well-made music. And also, if you actually buy the episodes themselves, they actually feature a sort of musical suite at the very end of most of the episodes, after a certain number of episodes that I can't remember at the moment. But it's also worthwhile getting the audio releases on their own, just to listen to specifically the music when they finish, because it really is well-crafted music, in my humble opinion. Now, the second half of what I have planned for today's show is I'm just going to highlight several different Big Finish projects from the worlds of Doctor Who, and that is not something that I just made up. That is a classification specifically for Big Finish. That is how the people at Big Finish classify some of these stories that take place in the universe of Doctor Who, but don't necessarily tie in directly with the Doctor. What I mean by that is that it's characters and themes and settings and locations that were introduced on the actual show itself, the show proper, but then Big Finish took, or rather acquired the rights and licenses to produce stories featuring those characters and settings and locations, as opposed to introducing original characters in the Doctor Who main range for specific to the purposes of those stories, then taking these characters that they themselves introduced in those episodes and spinning them off into their own individual stories. That is primarily known as the worlds of Big Finish. The characters originally created for Doctor Who, but then spun off into their own unique, separate direction as the characters sort of became independent characters on their own. Hopefully that didn't confuse anybody too much, because I'm pretty sure it just confused myself, and I'm the one that said it. So let's get started with the first thing on the agenda for today, which is The Diary of River Song. I've actually listened to the first two box sets for The Diary of River Song. It's River Song going on adventures on her own and occasionally bumping into characters from Doctor Who. As you can see here on this cover, she bumps into the 8th Doctor at one point. There's also her meeting the 6th and 7th Doctors, the 5th Doctor, also the 3rd Doctor. She also runs into the Master at one point. She runs into the David Bradley performing the 1st Doctor. These episodes are a lot of fun, and for what I can tell, that series is still technically going on today. So, like I said, really worth checking it out. Apologies, I should have been better prepared for this, but yeah, the main music, including the main theme for this show, was written by Howard Carter. And because I made a couple of mistakes very early on in this episode, I guess I will not be getting to show off the actual faces of the people that I have today because I neglected to name them. So I apologize for the wonderful people who have worked on the Big Finish, but yeah, this is just me really not being very organized and hopefully trying to produce a good-looking episode out of it. The other main project from the worlds of Doctor Who that I wanted to bring up today is probably the most successful Doctor Who spin-off, at least on Big Finish, as far as Big Finish is concerned. Jago and Lightfoot. These are two individual characters introduced in one of the most controversial episodes of Doctor Who of all time, The Talons of Wang Chiang. However, the characters themselves, played by Christopher Benjamin and Trevor Baxter, were so iconic and popular that they just received their own unique individual series on Big Finish, which has ran for, and I am not making this up, 14 seasons. If you do the math, that is technically speaking more seasons than the modern series has at the moment. Obviously, that's all subject to change since season 14 of the show is coming and on the way. And the series of Jago and Lightfoot, it's in and of itself, was canceled when one of the actors, I can't remember exactly at the moment which one, but one of the actors sadly, tragically passed away in 2019, I believe, which forced the series to end on sort of a high note on series 14. We also have had several different special releases alongside the 10th Doctor, the 6th Doctor, and even the character of Strax. So you know you're in for a lot of good fun whenever Strax shows up. The music for this, the music for this series was primarily composed by, if I can find it, Kelly Ellis at Full Circle Productions and Steve Nicole. Again, apologies if I'm mispronouncing the name, but I just really wanted to bring up attention towards the people who have composed this the music for this series. Another highly successful series featuring a character originally introduced in the modern era of the show, particularly in the Nat Smith era, is The Churchill Years, featuring Ian McNeice reprising his role as the iconic Winston Churchill. This series primarily features music composed by Howard Carter. Again, I believe he also did the music for the aforementioned River Song. The next series that I wanted to bring up and highlight is Donna Noble Kidnapped, which primarily features the character of Donna Noble, once again played by Catherine Tate, and also features Jacqueline King reprising her role as Donna Noble's mother, which she also did on the show proper. The music, once again, composed by Howard Carter. The next show that I wanted to bring up, and this is actually a bit of an interesting one, is Jenny, the Doctor's daughter. Again, a character introduced on the show, then eventually, finally, after many, many years of people asking where it is, they finally gave her her own show, or rather series, I should say, on Big Finish. The music, once again, composed by Howard Carter, but here's the interesting part. My bad. Jenny's music was composed by Joe Kramer, not Howard Carter. Again, my apologies. But the interesting part about this show and the series, it's hard to make that distinction. But the interesting thing about this series in particular is if you actually listen to the opening theme for this show, it is not exactly like the main Doctor Who theme. However, it does feature the same type of rhythm that I mentioned earlier on my episodes where I specifically covered the music for Doctor Who, the four knocks rhythm that keeps repeating itself over and over again almost on a loop. The da 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 dum da 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 dum da 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 dum. Except this time, because it's a different character, it's slightly altered, but still maintains the rhythm of four knocks, which again goes back into the fan theory that I proposed in the previous two episodes, that this four knocks rhythm is that can be heard in the Doctor Who main theme is the heartbeat of a Time Lord, because once again, we have a character with two hearts. Jury's still out on if she's actually a Time Lord or not, but a character with two hearts, and that is the rhythm for the music playing for her show, which again brings me back to what we previously mentioned earlier. The music for the Diary of River song has very much is very similar to sort of adventure archaeology type music, something that you would are more likely to find in a slightly more modern take on Indiana Jones, but again features a character that has several Time Lord elements to her, except that she only has one heart because she's predominantly human, which unlike Jenny here. Speaking of Time Lords and female characters with two hearts, we have the character of Missy. Yes, that's right, Missy. Arguably everyone's favorite master, at least from the modern era of the show, has her own unique series on Big Finish with music composed by Joe Kramer, again, who also composed the music for Jenny, the Doctor's daughter. I believe that's the full title of the series, featuring Jenny, another female character introduced during the David Tennant era of the show, Lady Christina D'Souza, who also, for some reason, got her own series on Big Finish with music composed by Wilfredo Acosta. I apologize, I have not listened to any one of these series at the moment as of the recording of this video, but I will definitely listen to at some point in the near future. Going back to characters introduced in the Matt Smith era of the show, we have the Lone Centurion with Arthur Darvill reprising his role as Rory Williams, or this again, Rory Williams, because this is technically set before his official wedding, before he became Rory Pond, because that's how weddings work. But the music is primarily composed by Rob Harvey. Next, going back into some more David Tennant related characters, we have The Year of Martha Jones, which features Freema Agyeman reprising her role as the iconic Martha Jones, and Ajoa Ando, again, apologize if I'm mispronouncing the name, but Ajoa Ando reprising her role as Francine Jones, the mother of Martha Jones, and music once again composed by Howard Carter. I'm feeling more and more angry with myself that I neglected to put names on the pictures featuring the people themselves, because I really wanted to show them on the show, but well, what is he going to do? So moving on back to the list of projects we have. I'm almost done, guys. I promise this nightmare is almost over, but next we have The Lives of Captain Jack, another iconic character from the modern era of the show, featuring John Barrowman reprising his role as Captain Jack, and music by Blair Mowat. Again, I apologize if I'm mispronouncing the name. There's no ill will intended. It's just I'm really terrible with names. So please forgive me on that. Next, we have the Paternoster gang. Speaking of Strax, three iconic characters from the Matt Smith era that lasted all the way to the Capaldi era, and unfortunately, Peter Capaldi's debut episode was the last episode to feature this iconic threesome. Probably should not have used that word in this context, but this iconic trio, let's put it that way, of characters of Neve McIntosh reprising her role as Madame Vastra, Catherine Stewart reprising her role as Jenny Flint, and Dan Starkey reprising his role as the iconic and irrepressible, or rather I should say irreplaceable, Strax, the Sontaran. Hold on, let me just make sure I've got everything set in order. Again, bouncing me back and forth between two separate screens here. Next, also from the David Tennant, or rather the Richard Eccleston era of the show, Rose Tyler, The Dimension Canon, which I believe they've recently released a second volume to that particular series, which highly worth checking it out. This obviously features Billie Piper reprising her role as the character of Rose Tyler, and much to Ben's dismay, the character of, Camille Kaduri reprising her role as her mother, Jackie Tyler, and Sean Dingwell reprising his role as Pete Tyler. The music for this particular series, again, apologies, was composed once again by Joe Kramer. And finally, we have, well, not finally, there's still one more. I apologize. Again, sorry, talking for too long with very few breaks in between. But next we have Sarah Jane Smith, Series 1 and Series 2. Now, not to be confused with the Sarah Jane Adventures, which came out slightly after this series, slightly after Elizabeth Sladen made her triumphant return to the modern era of the series, playing the character that she popularized back in the 70s. She played the character alongside David Tennant as the 10th Doctor, and then received her own spin-off show called Sarah Jane Adventures with a cast of supporting characters. This is a different series, exclusively the Big Finish, which primarily features Elizabeth Sladen on her own adventures alone, without, well, not really alone, but she does have several supporting characters in the show, but with what I'm trying to say is, and taking an awful lot of time about it, is that it's completely separate from the Sarah Jane Adventures show, and this was the one I have listened to, and judging by the way it ends, it is sort of questionable whether or not it's actually properly canon within the story of Sarah Jane Smith herself. I'll just say that and leave it at that. But the music and sound design, finally remember to touch on sound design for the first time in this video. But music was primarily composed by Steve Foxon and David Darlington. Again, and now the last two that I decided to almost last minute add to this show, rather to this episode, is The War Master, featuring Derek Jacobi. Derek Jacobi. I had that confused with someone else. Derek Jacobi reprising his role as the War Master from the episode Utopia, but this is him playing the character during the early days of the Time War. I believe so far it's up to 8 seasons. Not 100% sure on that point, but the War Master series has music composed by Ioan Morris. Again, I apologize if I'm mispronouncing the name. I'm terrible with names. Let's move on. And of course, we can't really talk much about the War Master without bringing up the War Doctor, featuring John Hurt reprising his role from The Name of the Doctor and the Day of the Doctor as the War Doctor in 4 separate box sets, which originally was supposed to have more box sets featuring John Hurt as the War Doctor, but unfortunately that was put on hiatus when John Hurt tragically passed away in 2017. The music, once again, is composed by Howard Carter, and interestingly enough, this is where we wrap things up and bring it all the way back to the beginning, because Howard Carter, in addition to creating new music specifically for this box set, for the series of box sets for the War Doctor, he also created or crafted a brand new version of the Doctor Who theme, originally written by Ron Grainer and performed by Nina Derbyshire, which is a slightly altered version of the theme, the main theme for Doctor Who, which definitely drops you into this war-torn galaxy, or war-torn universe, I should say. The Time War is raging on, devastating lives, planets, galaxies, etc., etc., and it's definitely brought into the forefront during the musical performance of the Doctor Who theme. The Melody 1, Melody 2 is slightly altered and feels almost a bit more flattened compared to its usage in other versions of the theme. The rhythm, the 4 knocks rhythm, I forgot to mention again, you know me, doing things completely messy. The War Master has a slightly similar version of the theme to the Doctor's theme, but it has much more of an emphasis on the 4 knocks rhythm that, obviously, as we all know, the Master hears in his head the entire time, which, again, it's a Time Lord, 2 hearts, supports my theory of the 4 knocks actually being the heartbeat of the Time Lord in the musical theme. Going back to the War Doctor here for a second, the 4 knocks rhythm itself actually feels a bit more epic, more drum-like when it's played across this very sinister version of the theme. And like I said, the Melody 1 and Melody 2 sections of the theme feel very, very flattened, almost to the point of sounding like type of feel. However, it does pick up once it gets to the middle 8 section of the theme, which, once again, feels slightly more flattened compared to the other versions of the middle 8 in other versions of the theme, but is the only actual uplifting part of this version of the theme, which makes the middle 8 section of the theme sound a little bit more like again. It's something that needs to be listened to in order to understand, so don't take my word for it, but the main theme in and of itself was then reworked into just being the theme for any Time War related stories featuring the 8th Doctor, which then picked up the torch, as it were, after John Hurt could no longer carry on the role, and it also became primarily the theme for the 8th Doctor during the Time War Victorious series from the past couple of years. Now, speaking about the 8th Doctor, Once again, I'm bringing this whole thing completely all the way around back to the Eighth Doctor. We started with the Eighth Doctor, and somehow we're going to end this episode on the Eighth Doctor because the movie version of the theme, composed by the aforementioned John Debney, was not the only theme that the Eighth Doctor had. Oddly enough, the Doctor that had the least amount of screen time out of all the Doctors actually has the most amount of themes, intro themes for him. Obviously, as I mentioned, he has the movie theme, but then again, he also has his own unique theme composed by. Again, I apologize for if I'm getting things wrong, but Tom Arnold. Hold on, maybe it's here. Nope, it's not here. But the new theme for the Eighth Doctor specifically primarily features, rather not features, but it sounds much more darker version of the theme, and I don't mean darker as in sinister. I mean literally dark, as in the actual darkness. It sounds very dark and eerie, almost as if you're following a spaceship flying through space. There's lots of electronic highlights for the theme, which ironically in and of itself harkens back to the more electronic version of the themes from the radiophonic workshop back in the 60s and 70s, but sort of sounds pretty eerie with the four knocks rhythm being more of a like I said, sinister and more, not sinister, like I said, slightly feels darker, almost as if you're listening to it underwater in a way, sort of very, very distant sounds. Obviously, you can't quite hear anything in space, but it gives you the feeling of listening to a spaceship flying through space, if it was possible to hear that, obviously. And the actual different melodies of the theme itself are accompanied by the sound of an actual spaceship flying, almost as if you can picture the TARDIS flying through the space and time vortex while listening to the theme, which is a bit ironic because for this particular Doctor, in this particular theme, he actually spent a pretty considerable amount of time during his initial run with the Charlie Pollard and Karis as his main companions, using this particular theme without his TARDIS in a universe without time, where he just walked from one planet to another without actually traveling through space. So, like I said, it's a bit weird, but the main theme itself was written for a Doctor flying through space with a TARDIS. So that's enough of the oddities for now. So one final note that I should probably bring up is that the Eighth Doctor also had another theme, which personally I've only listened to once in the main range for Doctor Who in the company of friends, but I can't be completely certain of it, but it might actually be used for the second sort of serials of Eighth Doctor Adventures alongside Lucy Miller, played by Sheridan Smith, which was primarily composed by Nick Briggs. Yes, that Nick Briggs, the guy that does the voices for Dark Cybermen and other aliens. He composed a sort of combination of the Delia Derbyshire theme from multiple different hearing angles, which it's a bit odd to explain it in words, but the most accurate description that I've heard people refer to it is Delia Derbyshire in a blender. That is the most accurate description of how this theme can be heard. And yeah, I'm pretty sure that the Eighth Doctor has one more theme for his Big Finish ventures, but I'm not 100% sure on that. And to be honest, I've already watched this episode enough times, I think, for one lifetime. Again, I apologize. Did not have much to go on for this episode, but hopefully I managed to salvage it by bringing you all the collection of audio releases for music from individual episodes, as well as hooked you guys enough with suggestions on different box sets and series from various different worlds of Doctor Who related media, which potentially, from the Diary of River Song to the Churchill Years to even the life of Captain Jack, could potentially be an interesting thing to cover sometime in the future on this show. That is a story for another time. Hopefully, I'll be much better prepared for that one. So, again, apologies if this episode was a little too inconsistent, inconvenient, unprepared, unprofessional. I'll take all the criticisms like you have to throw at me, but you know, I still tried to do the best I could with somewhat limited resources. Anyways, I am done here on this show, but that is not the only show that I do on this channel. I also have another show called, well, not my show, but it's called The Northern Countdown, which I do with my good friends Soda and Ben. You might be able to recognize Soda because he sort of made a cameo appearance last week, which was both interesting and annoying at the same time. But speaking of Soda and Ben, they also have their own shows on this channel. They have a show that they do together called Rewind the Tape. Soda has his own show called The Squared Slice on this show. On this channel, there's a show on this channel called Have You Seen This? Or Have You Seen It? Can't remember exactly what it is, but it features has Daniel, Snark, and occasionally Dave, where they talk about less important television than Doctor Who. You know, the type of television programs that don't have Big Finish spin-offs. So there. Speaking of Ben, you can also find Ben on his channel, The Multiverse of Geekdom. He does a whole bunch of shows over there that I'm not even going to bother trying to list today. Our good friend Taco just released a interesting video that he ranked every single, gave rankings to every single Gen 1 Pokemon in 10 words or less on his channel, something to talk about. So go ahead and check that out. And another channel for of a good friend of this channel is Jess the Kiwi, or Kiwi Jess. Can't quite remember exactly what she decided to call her channel, but she does some very interesting Descending into Madness related things over there on her channel. So next week we will be closing out our week of music related themes from Doctor Who with a big T ranking list of all of the main Doctor themes for each individual Doctor, which is why I felt the need to highlight every single individual Doctor's unique theme, because they will be brought up on that episode. But that is for me to figure out next week. Until then, everybody, always remember, music is life. That is not a quote from Doctor Who. I have no idea where I just pulled that from, but I like it, so I'm sticking to it. So music is life. Don't never forget about that. Goodbye.